And good evening, welcome to the World Game and to the 7th World Youth Championship for the FIFA Coca-Cola Cup. I'm Les Murray, and no doubt we'll get to know each other well over the next 16 days as we bring you the action from 32 matches, over 100 hours of football, featuring nearly 300 of the world's best young footballers. The host nation is Australia, the holders are Portugal, and Brazil are the favourites. But at this level, any one of the 16 nations is capable of winning. We begin in a moment with the opening ceremony from the Sydney Football Stadium, followed at around 8:30 by the opening game, Australia against Colombia. It's the first showdown in Group A, which contains Australia, Colombia, Russia, now playing the first tournament as an independent nation since the demise of the Soviet Union, and Cameroon, one of the powerhouses of football in Africa. And joining me in the studio every evening will be our resident panellists, Australia's most respected expert and former Socceroo captain Johnny Warren, and a man who was in the thick of it as a young Socceroo, and that's Robbie Wheatley. But we have no time to talk to them at the moment. Let's go to the opening ceremony where our commentator is Jerry Harrison.
Basically her brief was, give us a show, don't spend too much money, don't take the kids and the students away from their studies for too long. And I think we'll see in the next 25 minutes that she's done with her team a superlative job. The music is composed and organised by Gary Hardman, a very well-respected musician based here in Sydney. The age range is between 8 and 17. There are 1,520 children and students out there. And I'm sure you'll very soon recognise a few famous Australian themes and images. Sea, sand, sunshine, sail. The spirit of Sydney will be in there, and particularly a reminder that Sydney is a strong contender for the Olympic Games in the year 2000. The world is watching. The age range here is between 8 and 17. A few more mature faces will pop up, but the beach sitters out there, the sunbathers, are the youngest. 8 years of age, with one or two beneath the age of suddenly crept in, I think. Some 3,000 meters of fabric. "72 dancers from 2 high schools and 1 primary school, pupils who are lucky enough to take dance as part of their school syllabus." windy here in the stadium tonight. That should help the sailors, but it doesn't help the waves too often. Sometimes it can be a bit of a problem for them, but they're sailing well here. It's amazing how 6 small sails can be very quickly transformed into another easily recognizable Sydney landmark. There are 51 gymnasts here, including 7 gymnasts from state level, and there's a team of acrobats of mixed ages. Done as if by magic. There are a few markers out there, but basically the performers have to count, they have to catch an eye line from somewhere in the stadium, they have to remember, and they have to move to the music, which they're doing superbly. Okay, let's clear the arena, make way for the players. The object of the exercise here is soccer, of course, which some of us in their own quaint way like to call football. And a reminder, which is likely to be doubly emphasised when you see the big boys performing, that the glorious game of football, as Pelé calls it, has made tremendous strides here in recent years. It includes a much stronger structure at school and the youth level. These are 200 players here, boys and girls, aged 11 to 15, from the state soccer academies, drawn from the 4 corners of the state of New South Wales. Some 300,000 soccer players involved in Australia. Some of these young boys might make it to the senior level, most won't, but the good news is that the game is alive and well and developing fast here in Australia. Now we have something of a spelling exercise. It's not so much the order of the words, it's the shape of them. The soccer exercise was put together by Oscar Gonzalez, who's the head coach of the New South Wales State Academies. is the referee figure in the middle. Beginning of a colourful reminder. The Sydney 2000 campaign is a very, very strong one. September the 23rd, the big decision is made. The good folk of New South Wales believe that Sydney is the favourite. Beijing coming up fast on the outside, but this, I think, is proof that if it came to Sydney in the year 2000, it would be another superb spectacle. A bit of fun with wind tubes, sort of cross between a balloon and a plastic bag, but first of all, to have a bit of fun with them, you've got to run around and get the air and the wind into them. the serpent disappears, disintegrates. And now an exercise that really did need a bit of discipline and practice. Forming in the middle there, an abstract representation of the trophy, the big prize here, of course. And that's 3 meters across and no brakes. Getting the structure up, which will hold this massive ball. Took 4 hours, solid hard work by a local school, and they had to really work hard at it. So they do.
Welcome to the stadium, the flags representing the nations which participated in the qualifying rounds held all over the world.
Although it might not seem like it in the next 15 days, all the countries here are winners. 15 had to qualify, Australia the host, of course. So as many as 166 nations entered this competition at the beginning were disappointed. But FIFA family grows, it's an expanding family, and there's always a next time.
And now the flags representing the finalist countries. First, the reigning champions, Portugal. Brazil. Cameroon. England. Germany. Ghana. Korea. Mexico. Norway. Russia, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, the United States of America, Uruguay, Colombia, and Australia.
And the young lad, the proud bearer of the Australian flag, is 13-year-old Jeremy Manning from Rudy Hill High School, West Sydney. He won it on a democratic process. His name came out of the hat and into the history books. Australia, of course, very much a multicultural society and richly proud of that. A young country too, but its real history goes back thousands of years, and there are 50 dancers and students here from 2 colleges and 1 dance theatre company, all based in the Sydney suburbs, who specialise in Aborigine and Indigenous art and dance, and they too are part of this celebration. A little bit older than the others, between 17 and 30, but very much part of the movement. the encores and the finales, a reminder that the producer Karen Richards put this together in just under 4 months, as well as bringing up 2 very small children at the same time. It's all done by memory, music and counting. A lot of help from mums, dads, teachers, coaches, instructors, schools and colleges. The music by Gary Hardman and a cast of thousands. Youth Championship off to a really great start. It's the big boys next, the football stars of Australia and Colombia. And if they're as good as this, they'll be superb.
Yeah, spectacular pictures at the Sydney Football Stadium and pretty well a full house on hand there. And those pictures, by the way, I can just about confirm for you after having some discussions with the television distributors of this tournament that those pictures will be watched by some 2 billion people around the world during this tournament. Well, let's welcome back now Johnny Warren and Robbie Wheatley, who will be our resident guests on this coverage. Now, Johnny, first of all, to you, General, before we talk about the game today, because it will be a high-pressure game for the Australians, and for both teams, in fact. But 1977 is since this tournament has been going, some 16 years ago, and it has grown enormously. But why should this tournament be so important in the world of football?
Well, it's probably the most important in the development of football around the world, not just South America and Europe, but the Havilange presidency has taken football to the 4 corners of the earth with youth programs, which the Under-17 World Cup, this the Under-20 World Cup, the Under-23 and the Olympics, and developing players for the senior side. And it's paid dividends already, where you see the likes of Cameroon's doing so well in the World Cup, or Costa Rica. You see Ghana and Australia doing so well in the Olympic Games, and that is the purpose, to develop the game worldwide and be the platform for the stars of the future.
Robbie, you played in this tournament in 1981, which was the first official tournament, and I'm sure that it had a lot to do with enhancing your career in the long run. How did it help you?
Well, Les, I think an appearance in the World Youth Finals is an achievement in itself, but it really was a springboard to future international honours and a career in the game. And I think we will commence this tournament with a sense of anticipation, because there's so many other players that probably will follow that path, some onto even greater heights, and definitely the Senior World Cup. So there's a lot to look forward to, and personally I just found it probably the most exciting part of my career, and something I really look back to with a lot of thrills.
Tell me about the pressure, because these kids will be under enormous pressure today. You were under pressure then, but perhaps they're even under bigger pressure today, because it's probably a bigger crowd and now the game has a much higher profile.
Definitely, I can look at this game and say that there'll be a lot of nerves, there'll be a lot of tension, and I think there'll be a sprinkling of fouls possibly in the first half, purely just because of nerves. Players have got, especially in Australia, got the eyes of their nation on them, and the eyes of the world are upon the other nations as well. So it will be a tense tournament, and I think players will probably have to settle down as quickly as they possibly can.
Johnny, what do you think about that? We know that the Australian players, Australian athletes generally, not just footballers, are very tough mentally. Will the pressure get to them?
Well, hopefully not, and the crowd will be very supportive. I don't think our home crowd are like crowds overseas where they can actually turn against the team. But the game really is a question of temperament, and the quicker our boys can set down and establish their authority, hopefully that will happen quickly and put Colombia under pressure, the better it's going to be for us.
Well, we're almost ready to go to the stadium. The players are emerging out of the tunnel and will be crossing there shortly. I'm back to Jerry Harrison, but just quickly, John, the Australian lineup. A couple of surprises there for you?
Well, not really. It's Les's team. Morich was perhaps a question mark. That position, one could say, was up for grabs. There was always the question whether it was going to be Matassa or Djuric in front. But I think the rest of the team virtually picked itself.
And Robbie, how do you evaluate? You looked at the team over the last few months, particularly in the series against Brazil and Korea. How did you evaluate this lineup?
I look at it being quite a good balanced team, and I look at some of the players like Agostino and the midfielders holding the key really to success. If the other players do control their opponents, I'm sure we're in for some goals this evening for Australia. But we've got a good, well-balanced team, and I think that's the key to success.
Now, Les's tendency has been, I mean, the team that I anticipated was a different one to this. I thought he would play with three stoppers. Robbie, I mean, he's only playing with two. Muscat will be marking, Moore will be marking, and Djuric will be behind them. Does that mean to you that he's really being positive in this, that he's going to have a real go at this one?
I think Les has changed his attitude quite dramatically since the 81 tournament, because he now believes Australia has the profile and it has the players to not regard themselves as inferior to other teams. I think by removing one player from the central defence area, that it'll be a lot less congested, and it'll allow people like Craig Moore and the fullbacks to express themselves a lot more. That's what the Australians need to do. They have to act and not react against a very slick Colombian outfit.
Okay, well, we'll go to some pictures from the stadium now. It is an excellent crowd out there, as you have seen from the opening ceremony. But while we're doing that, Johnny, I just might ask you about the Colombians, and that's some of their fans there. Not all of the players we know, of course, but you did see the Colombians on two separate occasions in two tournaments recently in South America.
Well, I saw them in the qualifiers in Colombia, where they finished third, and also saw them in the Venezuelan tournament. There's about 8 of the players that I'm familiar with. There's no doubt the star of the qualifiers was the goalkeeper, Velez, because without him, Colombia wouldn't be here. He's quite outstanding. Zambrano, the forward, who plays just behind the central strikers, is an outstanding player. Unfortunately, he missed most of the games through injury. It's very interesting though, Les, their team, I didn't see them play with a sweeper, but from the players that I know, Quintero, Ortegon and Tierra Dentro are all central defenders, so I wonder whether they are going to be a little bit cautious tonight and play with a sweeper, which would be foreign for the way that I've seen them played in the past. Other key player is Perea, plays in the midfield, was the captain in Zambrano's absence, and is a real typical midfield type leader. Gonzalez, the fullback, is quite outstanding as well. They're a very good side. I think Australia has to take the initiative and put them under pressure as quickly as possible, because if they're allowed to play, they are quite an outstanding team.
Well, here come the players about to take their places for the national anthem. John, how important is it to the Colombians, this tournament, just briefly, as we wait for the national anthems to strike?
Well, very important, Les. They're emerging. They've always had the Uruguays, Argentina, Brazils to come up against, but the last few years have been quite outstanding for them, qualifying for the Olympics. The World Cup they did quite well in. They're here, and they have emerged as a power in South America.
Okay, John, thank you. Let's go to the stadium now for the national anthems, and then our commentator again, Jerry Harrison.
So the first lineup for the first game, and the honour goes to the hosts, Australia. A lot of experience internationally at youth level, not too much though at senior club level. What will be most important here? Strength and height at the back. Number 2 and more, number 4 Juric will be sweeping. Plenty of width and pace through number 7 Cranny, 5 Wingle and 13 Moric. But front players, number 9 Agostino and number 10 Milicic, are just starting to form a partnership. Will they hit it off against a very tough defence? Key figure there is Paul Agostino, one player playing in European competition in Switzerland with the young boys of Bern. He's only 17, but his extra experience and his sharpness up front, terribly important to Australia tonight. Well, the Colombians, from a much stronger soccer background, they're all full-time players. They have technique, they certainly have tactical know-how, but a new coach appointed only 2 months ago has brought in 9 new players and lost 2 key performers through injury. Early on, they'll be relying on the inspiration of goalkeeper Daniel Velez and number 7 Henry Zambrano, already a regular goal scorer at senior club level. Zambrano is a really wily character, doesn't look very strong, but he's very, very quick. And they're hoping not only will he be an inspiration as captain, but he'll take charge in the key area up front, certainly in those nervous moments. Well, a key figure in these occasions is always the officials. Referee Kim Nielsen from Denmark, an office manager. He's 32, not the youngest of the referees here, who's a Turk who's only 30. And his linesman here will be Gilberto Alcada from Mexico and Yingming Li from China. But the referee always a key influence in the opening match. He'll be set guidelines and standards by FIFA, which will govern the rest of this tournament. So the preparation, the worry, the tension is over. The show starts now. The 7th World Youth Championship for the FIFA Coca-Cola Cup. Australia, the hosts in their jungle shirts, as the players call them. Colombia qualified 3rd in the South American Championship in red and white. 2 emerging nations at international level. The first 10 minutes is critical. All the players like to have a touch. The pitch here in this magnificent Sydney football stadium is very, very good indeed. And Australia must make home advantage count. But it's a game of patience. They won't win the championship in the first 10 minutes, but they might beat Colombia. There's a chance, though, if they made things a little bit too quick, a little bit too hasty, they could lose it. So let's look at the pattern of things. Down the line from Muscat. Hard work there by Milicic and Agostino, and an infringement. And this is going to be whistled in, a test for the outstanding goalkeeper Velez. The Australian coach Les Shineplug said, if you can get the ball into the penalty area early on, get it in there and fight for it and see what they're like under pressure. There's Winkle, wide to Moric. Moric has done well, good play. Carboni does well to get it wide. Into Muscat and away by Ortegon. Perea, big strong number 8, playing in front of the Colombian back line. Hacks it away, but another infringement. Moreno the culprit here. So the shape is just beginning to emerge. It looks pretty tight in midfield as Perea does well. Good play. Moreno. Cranny gets in there, work with Moreno going forward. Zambrano was in there in support, but it's whacked away by the sweeper, Ante Juric. They can't link up with the front players. Good neat play. Gonzalez on the left. He's quick, but not quite quick enough for that. So Gonzalez on the left. On the right, there will be Lopez trying to support two front men for Colombia, and then they gang up in midfield. One of the most difficult selections for Les Scheinflug, the Australian coach, was who went in goal. Vince Matassa's got the bet here, but Frank Juric was a very strong contender. This is an area where Australia has a lot of contenders, and with Kevin Muscat leading by example down that right hand side, not with his pass though. They looked in a promising situation there, and forward goes Milicic. Good defending by Pereira, and a good break here. Zamorano, he loses it. This is good, and that's a foul on Cranny. And they've taken it quickly. Sekenis knocks it wide to Winkle. He loses it. Now they might be in a bit of trouble here as Colombia break fast. Zamorano's in the middle if they get it to him. Oh, it wasn't a good ball. Agostino knocks it back to the strong running Carbone. On the right hand side he's got Cranny, but he's marked up tight, so holds it well. No sign of nerves here in this Australian side. I think as we look at it, we begin to assume that they're playing like men, but remember, 17, 18 and 19 only. Restrepo, wearing 16, has been busy in midfield already for Colombia. Picked it by Moreno, but the control wasn't good enough, and it's well robbed by Craig Moore, the youngest of the Australian players. And he shows great calmness, bringing Juric into the game. It's good the way the Australians are knocking it around. They're all getting a touch, they're all getting a little bit more confidence. Can they build up and get a bit of supply to the front men Agostino and Milicic? A little bit scruffy there. Pereira looks strong. He's helped by Moreno, but it's too tight. Oh, Pereira gets through again. And a very optimistic shot that will give Vince Matassa a little bit of confidence. He'll feel those all day. Good play, knocked it back into Moric, but tight marking by the Colombians. Once again, they're hunting in packs. They close the space down. They don't worry too much when they haven't got possession. Not a good ball forward to the front men. Agostino is running all over the place, but he's so far got no service. And that's a foul by Mark Wingle. And complaints by Zamorano. Born in England, and some would say that's a bit of an English tackle. Nicely brought down by Muscat, but again, interception by Tierra Dentro, the tall, skinny number 3. Pereira, strong player. Gonzalez, can he keep it in? He's up against Cranny. Cranny does well. He's a great athlete. He'll run all day, and he works superbly there. Carbone. Keep the tempo up. Keep possession. Be patient. That's a good run down the left by Mark Wingle, but the pace of the ball just a little bit too quick for him. He wasn't in control, but they've won it back by good aggression. Muscat, survivor of course of the fine Portuguese side, the side that played in Portugal 2 years ago. Getting into the game, but sometimes his passes forward aren't too good, although that was a tackle from behind, penalised. Moric wide to Wingle. Moric running well on the left-hand side. Down he goes. Free kick. No. That was a dive, according to the Danish referee. It's very dry here, and the pace of the ball quite considerable. A little bit too quick for some of the players. But first game, a lot of tension. Things usually slow down a little bit and more often than not improve in technique. Free kick to Australia. Wingle on the left. Lopez gets at him with help from the busy and solid number 8 of Colombo Pereira. Wingle down the line, easily cut out. Ortegon, one of the markers at the back. Free kick. The referees have been asked to be very strict on tackles from behind, the 4-step rule from goalkeepers, and getting back the required 10 paces from the wall. Nipped forward by Moore. It's not a bad ball, and out comes Velez to pitch it from Agostino. It was nicely chipped forward there from the back, and Velez had to move very, very quickly. That's a very, very big boot by Daniel Velez. Gonzalez then for Colombia. Tight marking by Australia. Little space for Tierra Dentro, who he manages to get it away to Pereira. Pereira wide to Lopez. Lopez supporting on the right hand side. Forward goes Moreno. And well policed over the line. Australia still insisting, quite rightly, that they should knock it around, make Colombia do some running. A bit of a misunderstanding there between Moric and Wingle. Little flick, beautifully done, but well covered by 17-year-old Craig Moore. With the South American skills there, but some quick thinking by an old head on a young body. So 10 minutes gone, very few chances, no goals. Again, the marking is tight. We haven't really got any pattern into the game. Craig Moore a little bit too over-enthusiastic with that challenge. And a free kick here to Colombia. Well practiced in set pieces, a lot of skills in this area, but this I think is too far away. That's a throw in only. Flags up, ball is out, and it's a little bit fragmented here. Pereira, who's been so far in what has been an interesting but fairly uneventful first 10 minutes, one of the stronger forces in midfield. Hard one for Wingle as he's challenged. Coolness to get it away. Moric to Milicic. Well, the first one didn't get him, but the second one did. Been suffering from a pelvic injury. He really hasn't played a full game for too long, and he might not last this one, but they must get him some better service. Here's the free kick, going to be taken by Mark Wingle. Big fellas in the penalty area. Can they make the height count? They can't. Milicic doesn't control it. He's looking a little bit nervous. Away by Zambrano. Muscat back to Juric, the sweeper, calmly relayed to Wingle. Again, Milicic can't get hold of it. Tierra Dentro just knocks it forward to Restrepo. Tierra Dentro loses it. Agostino's working hard. And the sweeper at the back, Quintero for Colombia. That's a hopeful ball forward, and a challenge which the referee didn't like by Craig Moore. Australia have had a magnificent preparation for this. 31 international games in various continents. But all that preparation means nothing if they can't settle into a pattern, can forget their early nerves, and they appear to be doing that. But Colombia, strong defence and happy to get as many players as possible, as quickly as possible behind the ball. Juric coming forward from the back. Kevin Muscat. Cranny. And that was a bad challenge by Gonzalez, and that's a yellow card. Very important that the referees, as FIFA decreed early on, show their authority and certainly have a serious drive against the tackle from behind, and they've done it here. That's the first yellow card. And all the Colombians have got behind the ball, and it doesn't matter much because too many nerves, too many hasty passes, and Sekenis and company through midfield can't link up with the front men. And so far, Daniel Velez hasn't really been tested, and we haven't yet seen whether he's as good a goalkeeper as young Higuita was. Probably the most famous Colombian goalkeeper at the moment. And that's a breakaway as Restrepo gets forward. He was hacked out by Juric. But it's a Colombian throw. There's urgency here as Gonzalez gets it forward to Zambrano. Nicely knocked away despite the fact that he was under pressure. Well won by Carboni. That was a good tackle. Agostino shows a little bit of experience getting away from a challenge. Muscat to Carboni. It's getting pretty physical out there, but Carboni can look after himself. 15 minutes of the game gone. Still no score and still no real chances. It's a decent ball though to Mark Wingle from Craig Moore, and Wingle does well. Now he's got a good left foot. Can he cross it in well? Not quite good enough. Here goes Carbone. Agostino knocks it back. Muscat with a drive. That's better. That's the best move. Would have been better perhaps on his right foot, but that's much more encouraging. Good cross from the left, started it all off. It wasn't particularly well cleared, and Australia getting a lot of players up to support. Moreno to Restrepo, forward to Pereira. Is big Juric getting forward again, and that's another useful ball to Ante Milicic. Agostino's got into the middle. Ante Milicic, again the cross wasn't quite good enough, it was too deep, but they're getting players forward in numbers now. Carbone, good recovery, good tackle, but Australia are getting into their stride here. And this is the first corner of the game. The orders from coach Les Scheinflug are to get as many big fellas in there as possible. It's going to be taken by Ante Moric, and this is going to be a test for Colombia. Get it into the goal area, get some big guys in there and see what they're made of. In it goes, and out it goes again from Ortegon, and it's another corner for Australia. They've worked hard at these. Now it's Peter Sekenis who's going to take it. Once more, the big guys up there, Moore and Juric. And it's away by Restrepo. And for the moment the heat off, but this is much more encouraging now for Australia. As Agostino coming off his man, controls well, awkward ball, but he's outnumbered. Juric a bit of time. He's cool, but too cool, he almost lost it. Well, he gets himself out of a hole very well, and calmness keeps possession for Australia. They've got over the early nerves, they're beginning to play. Muscat. Carbone couldn't quite get there. Pereira, challenged by Sikinis, walked down on the edge of the area. Now then, Australia certainly got a chance. Free kick. Look at this for a challenge as Sikinis came in, little touch, and the referee spotted it, and it's a yellow card. The second for Colombia. For the sweeper, Quintero. And the number 12, Gonzalez. So a protest and a challenge. The referee really imposing his authority here, and he's bringing the wall a long way back. This is going to be a real chance for Australia. And again, if they don't get back quickly, they get booked. But they're back to the satisfaction as Moritz shoots. Well, he hangs his head in shame. I don't know what amount of the target he could see from there. This is a better view, but head up, drove it too hard instead of placing it miles too high. So better play there for Australia. Half a chance, but Colombia, 3 bookings already. And there might be another one there if they continue challenges like that for Australia that time. Well, clumsiness more than anything. Restrepo with a kick. Some big guys got into the middle like Pereira. Not good enough at all. Well held up by Milicic, and another foul despite the fact that there was a breakaway. The referee's whistle had gone. Well, the crowd felt that advantage should have been played there, but no, it's important that he stops these things. 20 minutes gone. No score, but things looking better for the hosts. Wingle on the left to Moritz. Nice little foot in there by Ortegon. Pass down the right hand side for Zamorano that he can't possibly get. Juric to Carbone. Carbone having to work hard on that one. I think the most encouraging thing for Australia and coach Les Scheinflug is that they've showed patience. They didn't play particularly well to begin with, but they're building up here. Zamorano knocks it wide to Lopez. Zamorano on that right hand side. Dangerous player. 2 against 1, and he's beaten. But Colombia still have possession as Pereira tries to knock it in. Zamorano again, that's a good ball. Well covered by Muscat, and well cleared too. A spark of life from Colombia, and the Australian captain is there in exactly the right place. Here comes Restrepo. In the middle to Moreno. Moreno turns, and forward goes Gonzalez. Good challenge. Franny is coming back to cover there, and a first corner for Colombia. Some of their big guys have pushed forward. It's important that Australia keep their discipline here, and they nearly didn't. That was a good one as Moreno came to the near post, and although he got a good clean header to it, it was well over the top. But that was good play by Colombia, not such good marking. Somebody should have been in front of him. Putting a little bit of pressure on them. Colombia not giving the Australia backline as much space as they did earlier in the game to knock it about. But they're doing it well. Sikinis slowly getting into the game. He had a fairly anonymous first 15 minutes. This is more encouraging though, as Mascot gets down the right. Not a good return from Cranny, easily intercepted by Tierra Dentro. Picked up by Moreno. Perea. Lopez wide on the right. Now they're coming forward in numbers. Craig Moore with a good interception, but it's Tierra Dentro. Forward again, but because the challenge came in, it wasn't a considered pass. It wasn't a considered piece of clearing though. It's picked up, fortunately, by Milicic. Carbone tries to get through the middle, can't make it. And a good battle going on in midfield at the moment. Now it's Colombia who are looking a little bit more confident. Restrepo. And forward goes Zamorano. That's a fine ball. Zamorano's got pace here. He might be able to pull one back. He does, but it's covered by Moore and cleared sensibly and safely. But Zamorano showed a bit of pace down the right-hand side. It was a good ball to him. The Chinese linesman making a point there, supported by the referee. Zamorano. Well, there's no real danger there, although there's a little bit of excitement. And again, sensible covering, and the danger over. So no real test so far for Vince Matassa in the Australian goal, and he won't be too unhappy about that. So Moore trying to get it forward, fortunately rebounds to a colleague, Peter Sikinis. That's a better ball to Wingle, getting him going down the left hand side. A return from Moric. Can he get a good cross in? Not quite good enough. Couldn't pick anybody out. There's a packed penalty area. Colombia getting a lot of players back when there's any sign of danger, and now they're rushing forward. But 25 minutes gone, still the pace fairly frantic. Ooh, a bit of space there for Restrepo. And offside. With instructions from the captain. Carbone is working particularly hard in midfield. Moric coming in from the left-hand side. He too hasn't had a lot of service. Ingle usually uses the ball well, and he's done it well there. Moric trying his trick, doesn't quite get away with it, but does well to recover, gets possession. Sikinis gets through well. Good play by Peter Sikinis. Now he needs support, and there's a foul after the ball had been passed back. Good play by Peter Sikinis, winning an opportunity here. He gets away with it, and as he knocks the ball back, he's fouled after the ball had gone there. So free kick going to be taken by Ante Moric with a good left foot. Driven into the near post, and Cranny came in there and swung at it with his left foot but didn't connect, which is just as well for Colombia. Good recovery by Australia. Back in possession. Building up again. They look fit and strong, and they're looking reasonably confident in most areas. Midfield not very creative, but Sikinis and Carbone certainly coming into it more now. But for players like Cranny on the right-hand side and Moric on the left, not only have they got to attack down that right-hand side, but they've got to do a lot of recovery play when players like Gonzalez shuttle up and down those flanks. It's hard work. Milicic, nice one to Moric, who's come inside to help. Craig Moore forward, looking for Agostino. Knocked out by Ortegon. He pursues it himself, keeps it in, and Colombia in possession, and numbers over there. They hunt in packs everywhere. Don't often hit too many long ones. Quintero switching it to Gonzalez. Correa coming back and asking for possession. Well, a lot of possession here for Colombia, but Australia do the right thing. They don't rush in at the back. They make them knock it around, encourage them to hit it long, like that, and with any luck they should regain possession. No, it's Colombia still with it. Moreno. Sierra Dentro bundled off it. They're working hard in midfield, and they're harrying and chasing and pursuing, and Colombia can't build up well, but they've got nimble skills, and according to the linesman, that went out. I don't think Moreno will agree with that, but it's a decision for Australia. Kennis now. Still patient, working hard on the left-hand side is Wingle if they can get the ball to him, but it's coming on the right-hand side for Carbone, and Cranny coming back, little space. Muscat, it's not a particularly good one, and again it's the hard-working Gonzalez who retrieves. Sprayed out by Pereira to Lopez. Restrepo to Zambrano. This is the danger man. Zambrano forward. Well recovered. Pereira. And Colombia is beginning to look at something of a threat. At the beginning of the game they were only pushing one or two players forward. Now they're getting much more support for the two front men. But half an hour gone, still no score here in the Sydney Football Stadium for this opening game in this 7th World Youth Championship. It's often the way that the opening game has a little bit too much tension, a little bit too much defence, but there's plenty of time for this one to be opened up. Chase is on by Milicic with no real chance. Well, the Australian bench, of course there are 18 players in the full squad. All players are available, so there's a possibility of 2 from 7 substitutes. Well, agony there from the captain, and a card there for Craig Moore. The first booking for Australia. Again, strict interpretation of the law by the Danish referee. Well, Colombia suffered a blow before these finals began when they lost a couple of key players, midfield and up front. Zambrano still getting treatment. Well, how bad a foul was it? The ball knocked forward by Gonzalez. Away he goes, and he certainly took his ankles there. So for the moment, they're down to 10 men with Zambrano getting treatment on the touchline. He's come back onto the field of play now, so it's 11 against 11. And it's interesting that so far we've had more than half an hour and we've had no real demonstration of the back pass rule, which FIFA incidentally are a bit concerned that one or two nations in South America are not pursuing as diligently as they should do, and they said they're determined to pursue it diligently here. But so far we've seen no sign of whether either side can handle it. And there's a little bit of frustration creeping in here from both sides, particularly the Australians, as Agostino knocks into Quintero, and a free kick to Colombia, which isn't particularly well taken. Well, there's a wonderful atmosphere here in Sydney. It's not a full stadium though, as you can probably see in the background. And the fact is, in Australia, if they put on a good performance and the build-up during the course of this championship, they'll have a million supporting them. But to begin with, they've got to prove a point. And Colombia are difficult opposition. Australia coach Les Scheinflug reckons that Colombia in this group are going to be the stronger force. But here comes Moric. Well knocked off it legally by Lopez. Forward by Restrepo here. Forward he goes again. Good challenge once more by Craig Moore. What a good game he's having. Good interception in midfield, but it's all a little bit untidy. And the back pass resisted there very nimbly as Gonzalez hacks it away. Winkler's in there. Moric needs support. He gets it. Always Craig Moore and Juric are there in good positions to help the midfield players. Moreno with a bit of space. He hasn't had much of that. Pereira is up there supporting him. Forward goes Moreno again. This is looking good for Colombia. Australia pulling players back to cover. Oh, and Zambrano's got a bit of space. This is dangerous. Zambrano! And he's in. He's scored. Colombia 1-up. A quality goal there from the Colombian captain. And 35 minutes into this first half, and Colombia are in the lead. And the flags fly. Well, Australia had most of the play, but there's quality performance here by their most experienced player. He's unmarked in the penalty area. He gets by Juric, and then he drives one on the near post. That's a disappointment, past goalkeeper Vince Matassa. To be beaten on the near post is definitely disappointing, but the marking there wasn't good. The finishing, though, was excellent. 1-0 to Colombia. Deflected, incidentally, by the captain. Have a look at the deflection as Muscat comes in. That's what put the goalkeeper off. A little touch. So the first goal in this 93 tournament, and it's scored by Colombia against the hosts. So can Australia come back? Now this is a test not only of skill but of character, and just after a side has scored, they say by tradition they're more vulnerable. Now Ante Moric with the big guys up there trying to make amends. Moric with a cross. Flicked on! Oh, and just wide. Ante Milicic, good header, nice free kick. Good play. And just too strong. Goalkeeper was struggling there. He looks relaxed, but I don't think he'd have got it if it had been just inside the post. Muscat wins the header. Sakinis brings it down. Well, now the facts of life in a world-class competition. Australia, the hosts, are trailing by 1-0. It's not the end of the world, but they've got to keep their patience, and they've got to keep hold of players like Zambrano, who's got the pace. He was too tightly marked there by Wingle, and Zambrano's getting by his man. That's a good cross, and it was just knocked away by Muscat. They're wobbling here, Australia, and Colombia have their tails up. Picked up by Tierra Dentro. Zambrano turns again. He's full of tricks. Moric into trouble, out of trouble. Pursued by Lopez. Brought down by Lopez, but just to throw in. It's all hair and scare him at the moment, and it's so important that Australia keep their cool. It's not the end of the road to be trailing by 1-0, but if they let Colombia in again, it might well be. Craig Moore. Wingle. Sakinis, just at the time when Australia beginning to get a few things together in midfield particularly. Nice little play. Agostino. Moritz with the goal. Milicic with the hit. And that's brilliant play by Australia. And they're immediately back in it. Ante Milicic with a superb strike. And the gamble has paid off. Sakinis knocks it in. Agostino turns it. And it's whacked in beautifully here by Milicic. 1-1. And Australia right back in it. Lovely ball in by Sakinis. The touch up by Agostino. And the finish was terrific. Quality play here, just when their morale might have been a little bit dented, and they show they've got it to go far. So the gamble of playing Agostino and Milicic together has paid off wonderfully, because they combined with the help of Peter Sakinis, and they produced a very, very important equaliser. Restrepo. Zamorano gets it in. It's dangerous, but it's fortunately too strong. Well, a hero at the moment, a player who's so worried about this pelvic injury that he's had, dragging on for months. He's almost 4 months indeed out of the game. Hasn't played a full match for far, far too long, but he has quality in the penalty area, and he certainly showed it there. Big one now from Vince Matassa, and the atmosphere has changed completely here. The crowd now right behind them. Winning all the battles, and as we come up towards the half-time break, it's 1-1. Long throw now from Ante Moric. No, it's going to be left for Mark Wingle. Can they edge ahead here in the closing moments of the first half? Well, Colombia having trouble getting it away. Out to Wingle against Lopez. Lopez wins. Zambrano helps out, and the decision goes to Colombia. Well, it's an interesting situation because it had been tentative in the first 15 minutes. It began to open up a little bit in the second 15 minutes with Australia getting on top. Then some quality play from Zambrano in possession, put Colombia into the lead, but Australia have come back with real quality. Agostino loses out. Well won by Craigmore, good header. And Colombia start again from the back. It's Pereira who's pushed down that right-hand side, supporting the front man. He's a strong customer, but the decision for Australia. Just about 2 minutes to go before the half-time break. Another free kick for Australia, as Carbone is brought down. Oh, that's a hard one for Muscat to chase, and an even more difficult one for Sean Cranny, recovering from an ankle injury and blisters, but he's a fine athlete. Wins the ball there, then loses. Becoming very physical again in midfield, a little bit irritable. But a shot we didn't see after that little confrontation involving Paul Agostino was a handshake. So the show goes on in the right spirit. Well run by Dinas. It's a difficult one for Moreno, but he's there. He's got pace. Can he pick anybody out in the middle? Oh, it's deflected again. That was a difficult one. Coming inside, good strong left foot, good record of goal scoring. And that's quite a distance to try and beat a quality goalkeeper. Good catch. Good run by Gonzalez, covering by Muscat. Not sure that was a foul. It was. And Kevin Muscat, not the sort of guy to foul in those circumstances. He can certainly look after himself. Milicic closely marked by Dinas. The back pass. Be careful. And Velez doing a Rene Higuita for the first time. Back he goes, rather hurriedly. Cool customer though. And there's the whistle for the end of the first half, which has certainly burst into life in the last few minutes. It started quietly, a certain amount of nerves. Then Australia began to open up, and then they were hit hard when Zambrano fired Colombia into the lead. But a superb reply with the help of Agostino and Milicic means that Australia go into the half-time break in fine fettle. Quality play, certainly in the last 5 minutes. The game has opened up. It's very much in the balance here, but the half-time score here in Sydney in the opening game is Australia 1 and Colombia 1.
And welcome back to Australia 93, our coverage of the 7th World Youth Championship for the FIFA Coca-Cola Cup. In the opening game, the half-time score 1-1. Lots of drama at the Sydney Football Stadium. Colombia going ahead first, and then that fabulous equaliser by Milicic in the 39th minute. Rejoining us, Johnny Warren and Robbie Wheatley. Johnny, your impressions of the first half? We looked a little bit nervous towards the middle stages of it, but a nice finish by Australia.
Well, understandably, a conservative start by both sides. The pre-match thoughts that we had that Colombia would play with a sweeper are correct, and as such, it's making it very difficult for Australia to penetrate, particularly as Wingle and Cranny, who have been lacking match practice, really aren't at their best, and we need them at their best if we're to stretch Colombia and to open them up.
Robbie, we'll be looking at some highlights in a moment, but the closing down tactics of Colombia, and I thought, quite frankly, very cautious defensive tactics, classic visiting side tactics, were a real problem for the Australians, don't you?
The beginning of the game was very slow, and I think there was no chances to speak of at all in the first 15 minutes. But it allowed the Australians at least to knock the ball around and get themselves accustomed to the surface and to the atmosphere. And I think that was a surprise, actually, that these Colombians scored to start with, but certainly a good opening.
I thought so. And what about the courage that the Australians displayed? I mean, I didn't see any sign of nerves, which I was happy not to see. So Les Scheinflug, I shouldn't think, would be too worried about that aspect of it.
Not a lot of sign of nerves, but I think the important thing was the return goal to get them back into the match, and also the fact that players are trying to do things on the ball. It's a good sign for the Australian side, and one that's carried on from the 91 team.
I think it's a fair tactic, Les, by Colombia. I mean, okay, they did play a little bit tight, but that's natural away from home. They would approach this game, I would suggest, to get something out of it, if a point, if not to pinch it. And they can do it with a player like Zambrano, as he showed. I mean, they are just so dangerous on the break. Are really one of the top players in the South American qualifiers, and a dangerous player. So if they can keep it tight at the back and pinch it through, as they showed with the first goal, that is a good tactic in my book.
Okay, well, he's featured pretty strongly in our highlights package. Let's have a look at those, John. And I think you were pretty impressed with the first incident we kept, which was inspired by Mark Wingle on the left.
Well, this has to happen a lot more for Australia, Les. Wingle and Cranny really have to get forward a lot more to stretch the Colombian defence. If they're playing with a sweeper, we've got to open them up, and we need those more active, and that was the first occasion it happened. But Colombia showing that on the break they are just so dangerous, they can create something out of nothing, and this was just one example in the first half of where just the nice little delicate touch, suddenly they're in, and they're always a danger and always going to be a problem to us throughout this match.
Did you find, Robbie, that our defenders were a little bit nervy at that point?
Well, some of these highlights highlight the speed of the Colombians in the receiving, and also their acceleration, which has been dynamic on some points. And I think that's possibly where the first goal came from. So a little bit flat-footed, and I think sometimes when our sweeper is exposed, it means that Zambrano has been left too much time in space.
Yellow card for Andrew, for Craigmore, I should say there, and it just indicates that the referees really are under instructions to clamp down. The Australians complained about this a little bit. I think it's fair to say that it was a professional foul and in keeping with the FIFA directive.
Well, only a foul could have stopped Zambrano on this one.
A real highlight of the first half, Les. It was a terrific turn, and unfortunately Australians beaten at the near post. I'm sure goalkeeper Vince Matassa will not be happy with that. It was a terrific turn, and the acceleration there and the strike, it was on goal, but possibly could have been saved.
Jerry Harrison saying that there was a touch on there by Kevin Muscat. We'll have a better view from this angle, but a series of mistakes, wasn't it?
John, too much space in the box there. He's been allowed to turn, and then Muscat did come over and cover, but I think it was a clean shot. We'll get a better angle from behind the goal.
Just looking at that, Robbie, how Ante Juric laid back, but I think he pulled out of the tackle actually wisely, because it would have been a penalty otherwise. I mean, the guy was just too good at that moment.
Well, Australia really were up against it at this stage, and the confidence gone. You'll see from this cross, Zambrano again as the instigator, and really that is not good defending. Two players free in the box.
And I really thought here,
not coming off the line, probably still a little bit shaken by the goal.
And I thought here too, John, that the Australians were really up against it. There's a lot more fluency in the Colombians' play here, and they started to expose us on the flanks and get some good crosses in. But there was more good news to come for the Australians later in the first half.
Well, apart from the goal and the timing of it, as you suggested, that the fact that Milicic was on the other end of it is fantastic news for Australia, because he is a talented player. He's been out, he's been troubled so often with injury, But there were question marks before the game whether the Milicic-Agostino partnership would work. It's probably the first time that they've played together, and this goal does involve both of them, started by Tsakenis. The nice layoff from Agostino and the splendid finish from Milicic.
The combination here, 1-2 passes, and that's an exciting moment for Australian soccer supporters. A great finish, and certainly leaves the second half in great shape. I think the Australians will go on and take it 2-1.
Apart from the pelvic injury that he's been recovering from in the Venezuelan tournament, he had damaged the shoulder, missed a lot of games on the South American tour, and he's a delighted boy, a real talent, and that is going to do an enormous amount of good for his confidence. Let's give credit to Agostino too there for the touch on. A splendid strike from Milicic.
What I liked about it, John, was that the Colombians closed down so hard and so attentively in that first half that this really was a nice checkmate move with a good finish. There was no accident about it.
Creating something out of nothing, and it augurs well, because that dual striker, the dual two strikers there of Agostino and Milicic are such an integral part of what Australia hopes to do. But this is the danger for Australia in the second half. It's Zambrano again. And defenders hanging off him. You have to be very careful with him not to dive in if you foul. That's what he's waiting for, the foul in the box. But he's very tricky, very dangerous player. And in this second half, I think it's fair to say he is going to be our public enemy number one.
All right, there are the stats from the first half, gentlemen. 12 fouls by Colombia, 7 by Australia. And the ball possession is crucial. 56% Australia and 44% Colombia, John.
Yeah, the other stat, Les, is 4 yellow cards, which 3 to Colombia and 1 to Australia, and shows that FIFA really serious, that they're going to stamp out any, even minor offence. And
well, if let's look ahead then to the next 45 minutes. Robbie, to you first. Les Scheinflug, would he be happy at the moment? Obviously, he wants 2 points from this match, so he wouldn't be totally happy. What would he be saying to the boys?
Well, I think he made it quite clear, Les, that he did want 2 points from this opening game. I think it's crucial that we start in such a positive manner. I think he will be suggesting that Wingle makes his runs more prominently in the second half, and also Cranny tries to turn and get some service operating down that side. I think generally the combinations will be there with Agostino and Milicic, and just generally to watch the pace and the recovery of the Colombians, which has been their most potent attacking weapon.
John, I think the Colombians would be happy with a point. Would they try to hold on this?
A point or perhaps pinch it. In coming to play the host first up, I think that is a fair enough comment. But for Australia really to dominate, they have to have a lot more contribution from the back. Colombia only playing 2 players in front. We need more coming from the back if we're to win the match.
All right, John, Robbie, thank you. We'll take a short break now and return you to the Sydney Football Stadium for the second half as Australia meets Colombia. You're watching Australia 93, the 7th World Youth Championship for the FIFA Coca-Cola Cup. So we're about to return you to Jerry Harrison. We will in a moment. Almost a full house at the football stadium. We're not sure what the crowd is. Just a reminder that 3 matches on tomorrow in Australia 93. The other match in Group A between Russia and Cameroon will be on in Canberra, and we shall be watching that very, very closely indeed. And in the group of death in Brisbane, as it's called, the toughest group of the lot, Group B, those 4 nations will be battling in a double header in Brisbane. Remember too that daylight saving is not yet over, or will not yet be over in, well, in fact there is no daylight saving in Queensland, so it is a different time zone on us, a 1 hour difference in fact, tomorrow. But we will have a match for you at 8:30 tomorrow, and then highlights of all matches at 10:30 Eastern Summer Time. We are having some audio problems, I gather. And I think we're okay now. Let's take you back now to Jerry Harrison.
They've got a chance here to take both points. But I think in the course of their preparation under coach Les Scheinflug in the last 12 months, they've experienced some difficult times in South America, in Europe and in the Middle East. So they'll take that blow very well, and be interesting to see how they come forward on that one. It would have been interesting too to be in the Australian dressing room at half-time. They've got a very powerful coaching unit. Scheinflug, Raul Blanco and Victor Fernandez, players who not only know Australian football but very world-wise as far as football outside this island, and they can really get the best out of this very enthusiastic side. But they've got to be careful. Colombia have skills, they have quality, and they must have received a terrific boost through Zambrano's goal. So Juric and Craig Moore, who had a wonderful first half for the youngest player in the Australian side. Superb goal, of course, by Ante Milicic, combining well with Agostino. But they've got to do it all again now. Once more, the same sort of patience, making sure the back door is kept firmly locked and barred. With Zambrano, the number 7, always the most dangerous. Oh, that's not a particularly good ball from the right-hand side. Moric coming back, Pereira leaning on him. So once again, keep the tempo up, keep knocking it around, take no risks. Wimbledon's wide on the left. There's a lot of movement up front. It's good play there by Moric going inside. Does well to hold off his man and win a free kick. This is getting better. A player who had to fight for his place in this side. There was a choice of 3, and there's another yellow card there for not accepting the referee's decision. They're coming thick and fast here. And a free kick from, I think, too far out to test the goalkeeper, but there's a good chip forward. Knocked into the middle, but not particularly well knocked in. Well, Colombia has started in the second half as they did in the first half. They collected 4 yellows overall in the first half. The number 2 Quintero, number 7 Zambrano, Gonzalez and Ortegon. Now it's up to 5. And it all counts in the final analysis. 2 yellow cards, of course, means automatic expulsion from this game, but 2 yellow cards means missing a game in the course of the competition. And down goes Muscat, not very much impressing the referee, but it's certainly a throw into Australia now. Now they're driving forward hard. Juric. Well considered ball, nicely knocked off by Agostino. Goalkeeper comes out, Vélez gets there. Good bit of judgment and a good punch in the end to Zambrano. But Australia working very hard there. Peter Sekenis to Carbone. But Colombia get everybody behind the ball. And the long one goes forward. And Milicic can't get it. But they put the squeeze on here. Can they pick it up again? They can. 1-1 early in the second half. And this game very much in the balance. Great challenge by Craig Moore. Pereira knocks it through to Restrepo. Sekenis is penalised. Frustrating one for Sekenis. Restrepo through for Zambrano, the danger man. 3 against 1 there, too many. It's away by Muscat. Back in again by Flores. And an easy one for the goalkeeper from Tierra Dentro. That'll help Vince Matassa, who was probably pretty disappointed about the goal he conceded. Tight marking by the Colombians. Your first touch has got to be good. And Moreno battling there, outnumbered, and then outfought by the captain Muscat. Sweeper, Quintero, no back pass of course. Sensible play to Ortegon. Well, there on the right-hand side is the Colombian coach, Reynaldo Rueda, 35 years of age. He's been in charge only 2 months. Must have been delighted the way things went for them in 37 minutes of the first half. They must be well pleased with the way they're keeping Australia out at the moment. Peter Sekenis does well. That's a nice little nudge forward to Milicic. Sekenis is supporting him again. Forward goes Moric. Not good enough with the cross. Wingle in well. Push there. No, play on, says the referee, as the hard-running Moreno gets possession. Does well. Good play. Craig Moore does well to get the ball away without bringing him down. It's still Moreno against Juric. And Craig Moore, that looked a little bit hasty, that challenge. Well, Juric had him covered. What do you think about that particular tackle? Restrepo trapped, gets it away well. Moreno and Wingle booted out by Craig Moore. It's 1 against 2 here. Agostino, and 3 if you count Ortegon here. Too long a pass, and anyhow Henry Zambrano on that left-hand side was offside. Interchanging up front by Milicic and Agostino as the ball is knocked around at the back. Agostino comes forward, tight marking again, and it's calmly put away. And this is a break on now by Zambrano. Zambrano's in there once more. He's so quick. He's like lightning. That came from a poor clearance, intercepted. Zambrano's away. It's not his favourite foot, and the challenge is coming in here, but he still gets a shot in. If he'd have put it on his left foot, perhaps he could have got a better angle. But that is a quality striker. Not a good clearance, a little bit of fortune, but they nearly made it count. So once again, the warning signs there for Australia. They're just beginning to play with the football. Some carelessness as Colombia swatted and put Zambrano in, and they were almost 2-1 down. Crowd now getting behind them. It's so important for players of this age group that they can feel the support and indeed the sympathy and understanding of the crowd. They can't expect to show against quality South American opposition all the time. It's a game of patience and skill. On the right hand side now is Kevin Muscat to Cranny, who hasn't been brought into the game as much as he would like, and he's been tightly marked by Gonzalez. Good play by Sekenis. He's really blossoming. Sekenis, a difficult role in midfield for Australia. Not really too many creative players in that position. Carbone and Sekenis, hard-working, industrious players, but they've made a mark here and they've often been outnumbered. Well picked up by Ante Moric. Oh, that's a good ball into Milicic. Sekenis couldn't get there. Here's Pereira. Zamorano still sticking to that left-hand side, although he prefers his right foot. Still getting involved as he dashes forward. Flores doing good work. Here's Zambrano. Zambrano again, he's done a good job. There's the cross. It's out. It's a goal kick. He's so busy. Ferry, they call him, his nickname. It's an area of Medellin where he comes from. But this is a young player who's regular first team experience in a very, very good league. Not a particularly good cross, but the ball, of course, had gone out already. Quintero to Tierra Dentro. Dinas and Marca to Pereira. And Australia have worked hard. They've won back possession. Good play. Moric runs himself into trouble when he could have released it a little bit earlier. Now on the break, Colombia could be very, very dangerous. Restrepo with Zambrano going down the middle. Good cover though by the sweeper. Fairly new to this position. He began life as centre forward, but has slotted into it very well here at a very high level. Flores knocks it in vain. Well, in the course of the last 12 months, Australia have played a lot of very important matches. Won 11, drawn 8, lost 8, but they've grown up in the course of those 12 months. But they need to have mature heads in this situation, because Colombia has certainly pace in Moreno and Zambrano, and although they were expected to be fairly negative, they've actually put some good attacking moves together. This is still going to be a hard one for Australia to win. Put in by Muscat, not good enough. Picked up by Carbone. This is better. To Moric. Oh, and in goes Milicic. Good goalkeeping. Now it's Agostino who went in fact, but the goalkeeper went forward for that superbly. That was good judgment. Nice little ball into the hole, but the goalkeeper, good judgment, good handling. Zambrano. Fouled by Moric. So we've had an hour of this game. It's 1-1. Zambrano, who looks a little bit older than 19, but certainly isn't, limping a bit. Restrepo, forward goes Pereira, knocked away by Peter Sakinis. A foul there. So that's the score on the hour. As Restrepo drives it. It's knocked out by Wingle. Zambrano. Good play by Colombia here. They're so comfortable in possession. Australia working hard to keep them out. Zambrano to Pereira. Pereira turns. Lovely play. Great performance here. And off the bar. Should he have pulled it back? Pereira with a wonderful bit of skill. It's still not over the danger. Flores has got a good right foot. Watch out. Restrepo. They're under the cosh here. Moreno. And Muscat gets in. Cranny to Carbone. You can understand why the Australian coaching staff, who've seen plenty of football around the world in the last few years, rated Colombia as the Australians' biggest threat in this Group A. Russia and of course Cameroon, our other opponents, who start off in Canberra, but they're lucky to get away with that one. Comes back to Juric and Carbone. Good play, but can they pick out the front men? Carbone, Sakinis, good first time pass to Mark Wingle. What about the cross here? Lets it run on. Muric, and on the far post is Cranny. There was a chance, but the flag surely was up. But when that ball first came through, that was where the opportunity was. Not when Sean Cranny had the shot and he was offside. It's a lovely ball in. Now here's the opportunity there. The control by Milicic, not quite good, although the defending was very good, and then he's offside. It's encouraging play though by Australia. And I think a substitution about to be made here by Australia, with the hard-working Darren Ioka to come on. But there's danger here as Colombia break down that left-hand side. Gonzalez, and they're coming up in numbers as well. Zambrano to Pereira. Pereira, strength getting him through here. Pereira coming again. Zambrano. In goes Muric, and it's Australia who are working hard to keep them out now. So this was a side, Colombia is, who qualified in third position in the South American Championships, have had good record at senior and junior level recently, but they've had a reputation of not being able to score goals. Only 4 goals in 6 games in the South American qualifying tournament. They look pretty dangerous to me. So substitution for Australia. Sean Cranny is coming off. He's taken a couple of knocks. He hasn't been able to get into the game as much as he would like. He has had an ankle injury and blisters, but there's a chance for fresh legs as number 16 Darren Ioka comes on from the Marconi club, an 18-year-old who came into the squad very late on, and he will really enjoy this opportunity. Well, it's been hard out there on that right-hand flank for Sean Cranny, and now it's Ioka who's going to have a little crack at it. Moreno knocks it back. Sakinis glides away beautifully. Once again, the tackle from behind is going to be penalised by a yellow card, and it's Tierra Dentro who becomes the 6th player to be booked. Again, it's the tackle from behind, which the referee, I think, quite cruelly punishes there. As Craig Moore knocks it forward, this is an opportunity. It's touched on by Ioka for his first effort. Well, we expected really to see more of the defensive skills of the Colombian goalkeeper Daniel Velez. We haven't seen that much of it. Every time it's given away in midfield, Australia are in trouble, particularly when Zambrano picks it up. He's a little bit greedy there. He could have knocked it aside to Pereira, and unselfishly hard work by Sakinis puts Australia in a good position. Carbone wide. Moric, now he can get the cross in. This is looking good. A definite chance for Agostino, and with his background of full-time professional football in Switzerland, he really should have done better with this. He certainly should have hit the target and made the goalkeeper make a save. He went for too much power. He should have gone for direction. It was a lovely cross. There was a golden opportunity, and I'm afraid they've missed it. Meanwhile, the yellow cards add up for Colombia, although in goals it's only 1-1. Here comes Mascat, driving forward well. Straight to Dinas, unfortunately. Restrepo is doing a good holding job in midfield for Colombia. Pereira, the number 8, looks very strong. Flores is charging down the right-hand side. This is really a game. Very much more open than the first half an hour. And either side could win this one. Restrepo getting in there. Here's Pereira. Restrepo can get a cross in. Well, to the relief of goalkeeper Vince Matassa, there wasn't much to it. They're pretty relieved too. Well, he got a reasonable opportunity. The deflection killed it. Now, who can wrestle the points in the closing stages of the game? It's more a question of nerve than of fitness. And so many Colombian players have been booked now that they're in danger of getting the second yellow card and taking an early bath. Now, the free kick, Mark Wingle to knock it into the middle, and this might be an opportunity for Australia, but really, again, the goalkeeper not tested. Some of the crosses haven't been 100%. I think all the coaching staff of Australia would agree with that situation, but they are getting players into the right positions, and that's what counts early on in the competition. There's plenty of time left yet, provided they keep the back door locked. Ioka, nice little wriggle, good play. Not quite good enough with the cross. Sakinis, who's really blossomed in this midfield. Mark Wingle, Sakinis supporting again. Now Zambrano trying to get away, but Wingle keeps calm. And I think Zambrano is having a little bit of a problem. He's got an injury here as we're now in the 70th minute, and it remains at 1-1. Wingle's gone down the left-hand side. Ioka's gone down the right-hand side. They're pushing and pulling, trying to create width and space through the middle. Juric looking for Muscat. Nice play by the Australian captain. Carbone, they're working very, very hard here, Australia, but Colombia, every man behind the ball. Oh, nice little touch here. This is good play with Kevin Muscat getting the cross in, and Agostino couldn't quite get there. Oh, they're still battling, and this is a bad challenge. And this is a booking and a problem. The referee's instructions in these circumstances are to be very forthright about challenges like that. That's yet another yellow card, and this time it's Nelson Flores. Flores, the 7th yellow card, but more important than that, there's an injury to the Australian player. And sadly, for the moment anyhow, off goes 18-year-old Ante Moric of the Sydney Croatia club. But a free kick might bring something with Mark Wingel to knock it in. Muscat is over the far side, he dropped it short. Agostino couldn't get there. Sukinis is wide on the right-hand side now, on the left-hand side, battling to get involved here. Carbone does well. Ioka still down to 10 men at the moment. Good play, Muscat. Oh, the ball again, not quite good enough. It's been quite a bit of that from Kevin Muscat. Now Zambrano and company are on the move forward. Lopez to Moreno. Tight marking again by Craig Moore, who always seems to pop up in the important position. And see how hard Muscat has worked to get back and help cover. Sukinis and Wingle. With on the sideline another substitution imminent. They do play the game well in tight areas, Colombia, and they're still willing to get players forward on the assault. They too feel they can win this one. Zambrano, and once again the valiant Craig Moore. Well, the news is not particularly good for Colombia here, but it might be quite encouraging for Australia, because the most dangerous player, Henry Zambrano, is coming off. He's taken a couple of knocks. He doesn't look that particularly happy about it. And coming on now is Victor Mafla, again a front player who was expected to be in the starting lineup. Strepo, ball forward, knocked out by Muscat. Bit of pressure on them. Milicic gets hold of it. Does well to keep hold of it. Ioka, and that's a better ball to Agostino. They're beginning to link up well down that right-hand side now, and a foul there, and possibly a problem as Quintero goes down. We can have another substitution, but the referee, meanwhile, is having a look at the incident over the far side. Fabio Macalino is on, or looking forward to getting involved, I think, on the left-hand side. The referee says we can't have any treatment for the terminally injured Quintero. We must continue the game, It's going to be a free kick. It's going to be taken by Ioka. And it's a good one. Oh, hits the bar. Goalkeeper can't get it. And it's Muscat who knocks it in. Kevin Muscat on the rebound. And Australia are in the lead. Extraordinary events here. Colombia complaining. The injured player, Quintero, is still down and out over the far side. The referee insists the game should be restarted, and 75 minutes, Muscat has put Australia into the lead. Ioka's free kick, the header there against the bar. They couldn't react quick enough. Muscat was onto it like a flash before the goalkeeper, and whack, it's into the back of the net. It's 2-1. Well, it looked as if it was Agostino's header, but it was certainly Muscat's drive. And Ioka, with the cross, did the job. Difficult one to clear for Restrepo, but Muscat got onto it like a flash. Well, Kevin Muscat, the survivor of Portugal 91, has put Australia into the lead in the most amazing way. Well, Kevin Muscat will no doubt support the referee's view that you play on, you don't react to those little activities that the South Americans tend to perpetrate. Muscat, the leader and the hero. Agostino gets it away acrobatically. Oh, and driving forward on the left-hand side was Macalino. So it's Macalino down the left-hand side now, one of the substitutes on for the injured Moric. Macalino going in there. Restrepo is fouled. So fresh legs have done wonders for Australia, although there's an injury here which won't please them too much. Mark Windle is hurt. Restrepo's in some trouble. Well, there's a collision here which the referee didn't like, but there was an elbow, then a tumble. Well, there's problems here for Australia. Colombia trailing by 2-1, have the corner with Restrepo to take it. Moreno coming to the near post. No Zambrano, of course. And the danger is over. It's goal kick. Well, the joy of the situation here for Australians was frustration early on, turned to relief, and now they're really enjoying this tournament. Milicic marked by Quintero. Macalino, oh, losing out to Mafla. Sakinis is really proving his worth in midfield with Carboni. They've made a big difference with their effort. Carboni picks that one up. He's in the perfect position to cut out the pass and spray it wide to Ioka. Carboni. And Colombia at full stretch there. And what a difference Ioka has made on the right-hand side in the short time he's been on. So 80 minutes gone. Australia leading by 2 goals to 1 here in Sydney, and the crowd right behind them as they go hunting the third. Oh, a great save by Velez. Milicic with the shot, very acrobatic, good goalkeeping. Long throw from Muscat, the old flick on or bad header, just the same thing. Milicic, great save by Velez. Restrepo. Wingle is penalised, and Sikinis, is it who gets a yellow card? Certainly the Danish referee, Kim Nielsen, very quick, and there's another one for Wingle. They have to get back fast. Sikinis with that first challenge, then Wingle, and the referee didn't like it. So once again, the referees here making their mark, bringing the three-man wall back. Restrepo, the number 16, and Mafler on the ball. Restrepo chips it forward. It's a dangerous one, but it's away by Agostino. He's got some valuable headers in both penalty areas. Now it's Australia's turn to get as many players as possible behind the ball. This is good play by Colombia. Quintero, the libero or sweeper, is pushing forward as an attacker. Carbone competing with Dinas here. And Ioka, and it's a throw to Colombia. Muscat coming in hard. Oh, it's a fortunate ball forward for Pereira. Here they come again, but the whistle had gone. Well, what have we got? We've got 8 minutes. We've got Australia leading by 2 goals to 1. Quick thinking when it counted, and patience on other occasions. They've had a bit of fortune. Colombia hit the woodwork, but so too have Australia had a bit of bad luck in their shooting areas. But to be leading 2 goals to 1 after falling behind is good news for home supporters, but it's not over yet. Macalino does well. It's not a particularly good ball into midfield by Milicic, it was. Now there's a lot of urgency in the Colombian play. Agostino to Carbone. If they can get another one, that'll certainly see the Colombians off. Carbone, Macalino does well to hold off his man Flores. Good play through the legs of Piero Dentro. Macalino wasting it all. That was a pity. Big boot out by Daniel Velez. Pursuit is on by Moreno. Craig Moore comfortably in there quickly and uses it so well. Muscat. The gaps are opening up in midfield, but unfortunately not for the front two. Well, you could hardly say they look satisfied with the performance, but they will do if the final whistle goes and it's 2-1. Muscat can knock one in here. Again, straight to an opponent. Sikinis does well to get in. Mafla for Colombia. Down the right-hand side, Flores. But he's getting a little bit tired, a little bit over-ambitious. And again, Australia working together in groups. And they get that one away quite comfortably. Agostino, not a good ball for him. An easy one for the marker. And again now it's Colombia looking a little bit leg weary, and it's Australia finishing stronger. Ioka with Carboni charging down the right hand side, taking defenders with him. Up goes Agostino. No real chance of a scoring hitter from that distance. Appeals for what? Cramp, I think. And help, or sympathy at least, from the referee. I don't think he's going to get either. Well, it's a difficult cross from the right. Agostino running hard, working hard as ever, but the marker made it almost impossible for him. Now here come Colombia back in the closing stages. Pretty hopeful, and really not a lot of quality in it. Well, you can imagine how disappointed they feel at the moment after they'd had that boost of Zambrano's goal in the first half. Had a couple of opportunities and some good spells in the second. Now they're trailing by 2-1. They've had far too many bookings for comfort. Flores to Mafla. Oh, there's a bit of space here for Pereira. This is dangerous. But he's trying too hard, and that comes to nothing. Gonzalez had a very good first half down that left-hand flank. We haven't seen quite so much of him in the second half, though. And they can take their time to an extent. Oh, there's a bit of space here for Milicic with 2 minutes on the clock left, plus stoppage time. Sekinis, touch on by Macalino, hacked away by Quintero rather desperately. Into Juric goes in well. Dinas away. Gonzalez can't get there. That'll do for Australia. Well, the rules of the competition of this kind, the first game is always a worrying one, particularly when you're the hosts. But when you fall behind and the crowd are stunned, and a talented side like the Colombians go into the lead, that's a big worry. It was important for the Australians not to lose this match, but now it looks as if they might win it, but it's not over yet. Flores is working hard there. Flores doing a great job. Here's Mafla, pushed wide here by Macalino. Good enough, it's a corner, it's still dangerous, but it could have been far worse. So we have, on our clock, less than a minute left for Colombia to get back in this one. Restrepo takes the short one. Restrepo trying to get inside. He's done well. He shoots. Oh, my goodness me, that was so dangerous. He's a bit worried there, no doubt about that. He came inside Macalino well. The shot gets away from him. So lucky. Desperately unlucky, Restrepo. And really, it should have been 2-2. Understandably, the Australians are asking for the final whistle. The referee just checked his watch, and there it goes. the first game here in Australia is complete, and the hosts have won by 2-1. Relief for Les Scheinflug and the coaching staff, but have a little bit of sympathy for Colombia. Hitting the woodwork there in the closing seconds. They hit the woodwork also at the early stages of the second half when Pereira drove in down the right-hand side. But Australia showed quality. They showed quick thinking to act on the referee's decision and take that free kick when the Colombians were trying to waste time. And Kevin Muscat showed quick thinking when he picked up the rebound and drove in a very important winner. So it wasn't a perfect performance. It was in some ways a tentative start, but they showed character, they showed quality in the key areas, and the hosts, Australia, have begun well against the talented Colombian side by winning 2-1.
Jerry Harrison at the Sydney Football Stadium, and that result will read well. Australia 2, Colombia 1, and of course Australia on top of the group. We just have time for a quick reaction from our experts. Firstly to you, Robbie Wheatley, because it will be a sense of deja vu for you. The match went pretty well the same way as it did in 1981, the opening game.
Very pleasing result, Les, and certainly being 1 goal down, the Australians have fought valiantly to get back into this game, and I think really, although the Colombians had a couple of chances, they deserve their victory. There'll be a lot of elation in that change room, and there'll be a lot of relief as well, because that's a great result to open the tournament.
John, I think the Australians are capable of doing even better than this, and they did have a lot more chances than they put away.
Much better, Les, and they say it's always a good sign when you don't play well and win. But the thing that impressed me about the game tonight was the refereeing, particularly the wasting time, the wall not getting back, all the things that we've talked about and haven't happened over the years. It was an excellent exhibition from Nielsen tonight.
I would agree with you, John, and Robbie, thank you for tonight. We, of course, will catch up with you tomorrow. And the action tomorrow in Group A, the second of the first round matches, Russia versus Cameroon at the Bruce Stadium in Canberra, kicking off at 8:30, and the first double-header from Group B at Lang Park in Brisbane. Portugal versus Germany kicks off at 6:15 local time, and then Uruguay versus Ghana at 8:30. And we'll bring you the pick of those matches in full at 8:30 tomorrow night, followed at 10:30 by highlights of all 3 matches played tomorrow. And tomorrow afternoon at 4, a full replay of tonight's opening game. But till then, thank you for being with us. From the World Game, good night.
Australia 93 was proudly brought to you by McDonald's and Kellogg's Cornflakes.